Good morning, it is Hannah here with Rundle's Urban Farm, and today I'm going to give you a garden tour and update you on the progress of our various crops. The tomatoes are finally starting to blush and turn red. We've got a lot of squash that are producing female and male blossoms, so we've got a lot of potential squash starting, and some of the stuff that we planted for our fall crop is starting to come up. So I will just show you around and you can see what we've got going. Alright, so first off we've got the squash trellis with quite a few squash on it. We've got spaghetti squash here, which is almost ripe. I believe that one there, both of those are green golds, and that I think is in Oregon. And then we've got Banquet right here. Nope, sorry, this is green gold, and that's Banquet. And then over here we've got Kabocha, another one on the back fence. And we've got a lot of blossoms, not as much fruit on this side, though we do have a rather large Hubbard here and another back there. Then we've got our tomato trellis here, and these are, let's see here. This plant is the Pantano Romanesco, and if I can flip my camera around, it is quite a bit taller than I am. So we are not quite to the top of our 8-foot trellis, but we're getting close. So more tomatoes, of course. We are having to tie up branches because they're getting so heavy with fruit that they're just collapsing onto the ground. So I've been coming out here every day and tying up branches here and there. Aren't these so colorful? And then we've got one here starting to blush, and this is a black crim, which is supposed to be an earlier slicer variety. Over here. And then this is the Krinkovic Yugoslavian, which is also one of my earliest ones to start blushing. And then over here we've got one from our trial variety, the Smiley, blushing. And I think that's all the varieties that have started so far. I have harvested a couple of Cherokee purples because they were starting to blush and they were splitting open. Alright, so here we've got peppers. We've got these are the King of the North peppers, and they are taking a little longer than expected. They were supposed to be ready in 55 to 65 days from transplant, and they are quite a bit behind that. We've got basil, which I need to make into pesto. Purple jalapenos. These are orange spice jalapenos, and I believe they will ripen to orange, whereas the purple jalapenos just start out purple. Carrots, and these are some of the ones I planted for the fall crop. You can see here there's a few starting to come up. I believe these are banana peppers, although as I've mentioned, I cleverly only labeled these as peppers. We've got zucchini doing well, starting to become rather prolific. And this one, the main stem is just trailing quite a bit, which is funny because sometimes they just grow up. And then we've got our cantaloupe, which is coming along and might actually produce. And then we've got our mystery squash, which seems to be some type of pumpkin. and it's highly prolific. And then we've got our beans, and these are the dragon tongue beans. Oops. So we've been getting a few off of these every day. Barely enough to go with dinner, but they're pretty good. They turn kind of a light pale yellow once they're cooked, which I suppose isn't the most appetizing, but they do have pretty good flavor. We've got some watermelons here. They're trying not to be choked out by this delicata squash. And our volunteer tomato has a couple of tomatoes on it, so we will see what variety that might be very soon. And of course here we have our compost squash, which is a cross between a buttercup squash and a Big Mac's pumpkin. And last night we did crack into one of these guys and try it out. It was a little on the bland side, which may have been from harvesting it a little too early. But other than that, the texture was really good. It was kind of dry, like a sweet potato, which is how I prefer my squash. So I think I will try to grow this again and continue to save seeds until I get a consistent fruit from it. Here we've got a lot of flowers, more bush beans, more flowers, lettuce, basil, flowers, peppers. This is a poblano and it's doing very well. We've got an eggplant in here, and I just think these blossoms are so fascinating. And then these bell peppers are doing very well. They are getting very large. I'm just waiting for them to actually start changing color for me. Carrots and more squash, and our little container garden over here. The beans are just failing to thrive. I pulled a bunch out because I thought they maybe had curly top virus. These ones still seem pretty stunted. And we've got our squash, our other containers. Over here, our bagged squash are doing very well. We've got one fruit so far, somewhere in here, right there. And the butternut squash, which is still very slow in the actual garden, is currently flowering in these bags, so it's doing fairly well. We've got a lot of male flowers on this kabocha, but no female yet. Here we've got our cucumber trellis in their first raised bed, which has tomatoes and cucumbers, and in front the peppers. And these habanadas are finally starting to get some blossoms, so that will be exciting to see how those do. Squash bed is going very crazy. Got a big kabocha right here, and the onions are doing nicely as well. The container tomatoes are doing pretty well. So far they've flowered a couple of times, but we aren't seeing any fruit just yet. Thank you for joining me on today's garden tour. I hope you liked seeing what we've got going and that your gardens are also growing well. See you next week.